Welcome back to the SEC, everybody. We got one match over in Europe already taken care of. We're moving on to another one. Gormizer, hope you're staying cool here in this hot Georgia weather.
That's just me.
I know. We'll get to that in just a second. We're pushing 90-plus degrees here in Atlanta, but we're staying
like
cool
100.
with some EU SEC, and we've got another great one. A couple fan-favorite matchups to be had here. Hex Mambo versus the Highland Ravens. Gore. Staying cool was a bit of a joke. You're having some car trouble, unfortunately, but hopefully we get that remedied.
I'll fix it by tomorrow. And if it's not fixed by tomorrow, then it's a much bigger problem that I can fix, and that becomes
What is it, the AC?
Yeah, I think it just needs like some Freon in it. So I just got to go to the store, get that.
Well, good news is that doesn't cost any money.
Except
Come on! We're on it today. Hex Mambo versus Highland Ravens.
That's the energy we got.
That's the energy we're bringing into this one. And look, it's nice and cool here in the studio. Cooler heads will prevail. Already got one EU SEC set taken care of. That means we are moving on to our second one, and that is the Highland Ravens versus Hex Mambo. And then, of course, Gilded Gladiators versus the Aru Scorpions will be tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, prior to SPL waiting room, and then SPO will kick off just after that. The standings through one matchup, and two in the case of the Ferrymen and the Wargs, now look like this. And so Ravens versus Mambo, highly important matchup here, Gore, between these two teams. Remember how competitive the EU SEC is. Buying yourself some separation this early on, especially against one of the other predicted top teams in the Highland Ravens. So important for Hex Mambo, so important for this Ravens team.
And just, being able to look at the Ravens and specifically how they've been playing. This was a team that I think for a lot of time had a lot of high expectations behind them. I think, being able to look at them, being able to see what they personally have brought as far as players was always really, really high level. That being said, things are different for them this week, right? Like, you're looking at this, you see Silenced, you see Sap, you see Mogao. Most of those players aren't going to be playing. What you see now on your screen there, having Kana, having Angry, and having, I believe it's going to be Calvin over there instead of Preds, for the support, is going to be very big. And I will easily say, Calvin has been one of those players, personally, that has been one of those supports that, at least in Europe, I've always had my eye on. I think there were a lot of just really, really good Khepri games in a row that won me over for that player. And so I think that this is a world where, first off, Khepri's actually doing pretty damn well in the meta. So definitely some strength in that regard. But also, even through growing pains, the swaps that they have made is definitely not, maybe more lateral, maybe slightly upgrade. I think Angry is someone, when it comes down to mid lane, that you have to keep your eye on and has been doing really well. So I think it's going to be fun to watch how this Ravens team performs.
Yeah, I agreed. Sap, a very talented player, as you point out. Angry, though, maybe the best in the EU SEC as far as mid laners go, which is high praise.
He had a nuts KDA throughout all of last phase, too.
I think Angry went every week up until the last week.
He went into the last week with a 46 plus KDA.
Which is unreal. even in losses, because that team lost some individual games, staying alive throughout all of that. Strong for Angry. Hex Mambo. Yeah. Again, high praise to throw Angry up there with some of the best mid laners here in the EU SEC. When you're playing against some players with very storied careers, and that's exactly what Hex Mambo is. Remember, belt slap from a couple SEC phases ago. Now this roster, but of course has undergone some changes. Deathwalker joined this team, Ecrone joined this team, but still Johnny, Zeros, and Trickstank kind of holding down that strong 3v3.
Yeah, when you think about it, this is going to be the ultimate test for you at any regard, because 4 of these guys have played in the SPL. And done pretty damn well when they were doing it as well. You go back to when Zeros was on land, probably one of the top mid laners that you got to see. A lot of fun to be able to see through there. Deathwalker's been to Worlds Finals a few times. So there's a lot of experience behind this squad. Ecrome, the only one, quote-unquote, lacking that, but what Ecrome lacks in at least SPL and maybe LAN experience makes up for in just being real damn good at Smite. And so you get to see a lot of this. It's not often you get to talk about, the bans, although whenever I talk about Hex Mambo now, it almost always comes up, so maybe I should rephrase that or rethink that. But it is the fact that, this is a team that with Trix Tank on it, you have to throw some bans over there. Nobody likes playing against Trix as Sobek, and you have to be able to deal with that. With some of the meta junglers right now, it feels like you need to throw some bans Johnny's way. It feels like there's a lot of prominent picks that can go over there in the solo lane that maybe need to be controlled. But the one that is always necessary and almost always needs to happen, and I believe at least going into last week was one of the top 2 bans against them, it's the Heimdall, because Echrom's just too good at it. It doesn't matter if it's meta. It doesn't matter if it's something that everybody's picking. You almost have to deal with that when it comes to playing against this team, because they're just better than you when they have that pick.
And guess who's on the other team? Vaporish Coast, who loves playing Heimdall.
And you know what?
Yeah. We'll see in picks and bans for game 1 if Heimdall gets through at all. Plenty of good options here for both of these teams. You bring up Trix Tank, his Sobek. Bans have been centered around that as well. Trix Tank has played Fafnir the last 3 games that he's played in the SEC, so 3 games in a row in the one SEC set, a 2-1 win over the Wargs. Kumba Karna, that's also a very Hex Mambo-y ban, like against Hex Mambo specifically. Yeah. I guess it could be Trix Tank. Could also be Deathwalker with the way that some of those solo lane picks end up going. Hades, very much Deathwalker-y with not only how strong Hades is at the moment with some of the builds that we've seen come out of that role, but Deathwalker also was playing Hades before that build really started to come through. All right, Gore, so Heimdall makes its way through the first 6 bans here. I wonder if one of these 2 teams is feeling like a reach here to grab Heimdall early in the draft.
I have to go double check for their set last week, but I'm pretty sure this was very similar to what it was with like the Wargs and the Mambo. Was like the one time Heimdall didn't get first pick, he was the Wargs first picked Yamoja, and then immediately Mambo scooped up their Heimdall. Guess what? They got a win. Wargs took the Heimdall next game, got themselves a win, and then Mambo first pick last game got the Heimdall first pick. So like it is very highly coveted, I think, in this matchup to be able to pick that up simultaneously, because like you said, both of the players are very good at it, and you want to take it away from that person at the same time. So it works both ways and maybe helps balance things out.
Good double swing there for the Ravens. Osiris and Baba Yaga for Hex
It's good
Mambo.
that it swings both ways.
Yeah, Corey, you're good at your job. Hey, we got speaking of which, I don't know if we sell these, but if we do, you should buy one. But
and
if we
you know
don't,
what?
I'm
My
sorry.
favorite part of that shirt actually is the lower portion of it. You've got the Smite lightning bolt, the Roko logo, and the Paladin's crystal right above like the hi-rez. Yeah,
right in there.
That's one of my favorite things. I don't know if we sell it anymore. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, I don't know if we ever sold it at all. That might have just been given to us.
Yeah, unlucky for everyone else who wants one. Unless we do sell it, then go buy one. We're great salesmen, Gore. We don't even know if we're selling the product that we're trying to sell. Hunbats ends up being the next pick here for Hex Mambo. So you got some good setup, Gore. Later on in the game, Fear No Evil is going to be so strong for this squad. Osiris as well jumping in. I think that all but confirms a solo lane Osiris here for Deathwalker. And then Baba Yaga for Zeros provides some good scaling. Zeros can hang out in lane, scale up, get some of those items online. I actually like the first 3 that Hex Mambo have.
Yeah, honestly, it's very, I think, strong, team fight oriented when it comes down to the Hunbats. Baba Yaga is one that I think is perfect for this meta. I think the pace of the game, you play her to be late game, and this meta wants late game. You can load in, you can go for as many stacking items as you want. The house benefits you, so you even get those peaks even quicker than what most people in mid are going to be doing. I'm thinking of like the Kukul Khan that the Kings played last week when they went to the like Thoth, then Warlock staff, things like that. So I think you're able to pick those up, get through their power spikes even faster. And then Osiris has been just a powerhouse in the last couple of weeks as well. So really the top 3, and I would even say 4 now for the Mambo are selling me.
Now, on the flip side, the Ravens also have a very stacked draft on their own. Heimdall, of course, very good for Echrom, but then you throw the Ganesh on that side. Bakasura for some late game scaling. Tiamat in the late game scares me. And then King Arthur, in a meta where solo laners have moved away from warriors every single game. We've seen a lot of hunters out of that role. We've seen Hades over there every once in a while. King Arthur has remained a warrior through and through that we've seen played a good bit over in the soul lane. So I think you look at late game scaling, Gore, going in to game number 1 between Hex Mambo and the Highland Ravens. Which team can get there healthier? Which team can get there more successfully? Well, that may end up just determining the outcome.
I think a lot of it is going to depend on these first few minutes, right? I think when I think of Hunbats, I'm not trying to fight at level 3. Like, you can. It's not going to be the end of the world, but, like, you're not doing as much damage. You could find a pretty quick first blood. I think that you have a lot of capabilities, right? The slow on your jump is actually very effective early on, but, you know, overhand smash isn't doing as much damage. Your in-hands don't hit quite as hard, and they honestly kind of feel slow. And so, like, you can get effective on Hunbats in the first couple of levels, but, like, it's not your bread and butter. That level 5 mark is like really the crest of the hill, right? Everything after that feels like it can go your way, but it's been several years of meta that we've really gotten to see. Like sometimes Hunbats just wants to farm. And what does Mambo do better than just farm, right? Like I think that they're a really good team at disengaging from early aggression, forcing fights if they want it, but being able to dictate whether or not you'll even get a fight against them. And I think that's going to end up letting Johnny, you know, again, maybe coast through the early game, not have necessarily a huge splash, but get a lot of farm and then eventually get this Hunbats to the point where it will make a big mark. Same thing can be said, though, for the Bakasura. I'm not maybe trying to fight super early as a Bakasura. So, you know, if both of the junglers are going to play a little lax, I think all of the lanes are going to feel a little relaxed as well. King Arthur's a little bit of a bully. Same thing can be said for Osiris, so that can go back and forth, but it's going to be a slap fest. And dual lane maybe feels more on whether or not Fafnir gets a sick hammer or a good ohm comes out from Calvin.
Yeah. Yeah, look, and again, both these teams, no strangers to the slower, more calculated style of Smite play, and now you've drafted some very strong late-game compositions. Of course, you'd love, again, to get there with a slight lead, make your life a little bit easier, but the risky plays maybe won't be quite as prominent here in game number 1. Soul Eater looks like maybe what Deathwalker is considering early here, Gore. Now, my data on Osiris solo lane is pretty limited, so maybe this is standard on this style of pick, but only a select few warrior solo laners in general, it feels like, are picking up this item early on.
Yeah, it feels like something that has been, I want to say, even more on the rise lately. That we've gotten to see, and maybe it's just because, like, right, when you look at some of the items over there in solo lane, they maybe aren't hitting as hard as they used to. I think you know, 9.6, which came out just after these games were played, buffed some of those items again, so maybe we'll start seeing like those first items like Glad Shield, things like that again. But with the 5-9 bonus balance, this is 5-9. How about 9-5? I didn't mean to take us back 4 years there, unfortunately. No, 9-5 bonus balance. This feels just better, right? You're going to get a good power spike from it. It's going to be good survivability for you, which all of that is going to help in dealing with a King Arthur. King Arthur is really good at controlling the lane. The Bluestone gets a little bit too much extra damage, maybe a little uncomfortable amount of extra damage on you. So this is going to allow Deathwalker to have a little more longevity in the lane and maybe find some control and maybe some pacing that can then open up opportunities for ganks.
Well, Johnny is going to rotate on over. Looks like an early blue buff invade here. Kana will be assisted by Rapio, and blue buff, as always, is going to go over to the Bakasura. But has Johnny done too much? Yes, he has. Kana rotates through, and that's pretty simple for the Highland Ravens solo laner. First blood over to the King Arthur.
Yeah, when it's as easy as that, right? It's just, hey, you got aggressive. You made a good play, at least a smart play. Unfortunately, they were there to retaliate. It doesn't get, I think, any less straightforward than that, right? Like, it is so easy, or more straightforward than that. It is so simple of a play, and I would argue maybe even a better first blood. Granted, King Arthur level 5 having that advantage maybe isn't like the craziest like gap in the world, right, over the Osiris. Once you get 5 for Deathwalker, you've now got a leap that can get you out of there. But with the teleport online, I can already tell like Deathwalker's looking for rotations more than likely a little bit later on in the game. Soul Eater's going to give him that survivability I mentioned earlier. I think a lot of this is just going to be how hard can Kana bully. And I think that Deathwalker's already been itemizing in a way that's going to slow that down. So you've got that small lead, but I'm not sure that if it goes on to Rapio, I think, as the kill, giving him that extra gold, getting that Golden Blade online faster, probably could have opened up a little bit more.
Yeah, Sovereignty's a popular early item for solo laners anyway, and now you're going up against more sustain for Deathwalker. I agree. Maybe it's more comfort for Kana, but nothing that's going to snowball that lane out of control against Deathwalker in the way that this Osiris has built up so far. Of course, Golden Blade for Rapio. That's expected. These junglers love this Golden Blade start, especially when it synergizes as well as it does for Rapio. Looks like Johnny Transcendent start would be my guess, so gonna be some stacking on one side, Gore, maybe a bit more speed farming on the other. And honestly, it works well. I mean, you talk about speeding up the pace of getting this Bakasura going, and Golden Blade, I think, slots right in with that game plan.
Yeah, someone who already farms incredibly fast through the jungle, farming even faster. The thing that's really opened my eyes with this Golden Blade, it's actually interesting because it's not like the main reason you would get it. Part of it's going to be the clear. Honestly, I would argue half of it, if not more, is just because the stats on Golden Blade are really good early on for a jungler. Yeah, you get the movement speed, the attack speed for someone like Baka is very important, and the physical power. Maybe not the biggest jump that you're going to get from it, but the stacks that you get from everything else feels so good.
Right.
And it's because of this, maybe not in this scenario, that is just a clean way to steal away a Scorpion, but using that ult, having the cripple field, having some of the minions that can then body block away for the team from trying to run away, but having AoE autos that then AoE even further is really fun to watch, and I think that's going to open up opportunities if they're too clustered on Hex Mambo. It's going to give Rapio a ton of damage in a small area.
Yeah, it would. So level 5 Gore, though, on the flip side, the scaling of Rapio there, an early ultimate used. But Johnny now, with that Fear No Evil Gore, got to keep those eyes on the move, the Highland Ravens do. You got 4 sets of beads. Everyone but Rapio's got those. And so finding the necessary target for some initiation, maybe not necessary, maybe the correct target for some initiation, is what Johnny will have in his mind here while he gets that Transcendent stacked up. So it's actually a unique balance where, yes, once you hit level 7, or level 5 rather, you get that Fear No Evil. But you've also got Transcendence, and I don't envy junglers. The decision between ganking, continuing to farm, continuing to stack, gotta be on Johnny's mind here. And you hope the rest of Hex Mambo are able to withstand the pressure if Rapio does find some openings. So the jungle chess match score might not actually result in many ganks and all that high flying of action, but I think there is potential depending on where Johnny wants to put these ultimates.
Well, that's been one of the conversations I think we've been having just between us, right? When it's like discussing for jungle matchups specifically, like, is it going to be worth investing so much time in a kill, in duo lane or over in solo or in mid, if the other guy just farms and goes and steals your camps and maybe matches the experience that you just got. And so a lot of it, especially in this meta and the way that things have changed since 9.5, is more focused in my mind around those death timers, right? It's not the gold and the experience of the kill. It's how long do you have now to work with on the map without having to worry about that guy? What can you steal from him? What openings is it opportune for you? And so, being able to get a kill onto the carry. Cool, now we can start opening up maybe movement towards the Gold Fury and feel a little more comfortable there. You kill the jungler. Oh, is his speed buff up? Maybe I go a little deep in there, right? You start looking for things on the map to pull that advantage over to you.
Gold Fury Gore hasn't really been pulled. What do we think? Like 15 minutes, 13, 14, 15 minutes is like average Gold Fury time nowadays?
Yeah. It honestly could even be a little bit later. So
maybe be a little bit longer. I feel like everything in just the meta in general has shifted like 5 minutes further back, right? Like our average game times now are maybe 30 minutes instead of 25 minutes. Gold Fury now, probably 15, a little longer rather than like just past 10 minutes, it feels like, in metas have passed. Which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. But it definitely has slowed down EU or NA, right? I mean, regardless of what region you're playing in or what your play style is, the early game has slowed down for a lot of these teams. But I guess we saw like a 19-minute SPL match last week. Actually, I think it was the Scarabs who just steamrolled somebody that they were playing against, and it only took them like 20 minutes. So it is still possible, but you got to be active.
You can still do it.
But you got to be active from like minute 1, and not many teams. 99% of matches that we've seen have been a bit slower paced. Lots of action around blue buffs, though. Junglers fighting around their solo laners. This time, blue buff gets dropped down quietly on the flip side of the map. Deathwalker picks that one up. No return jungle gank to be had. Mid laners opting for very similar builds here. Zeros, of course, will get that Charon's coin stacked up earlier, so you're going to get some extra value out of this Baba Yaga as far as
honestly
mid to late game
that
scaling.
Might be one of the best things about Baba in this
Coast. No, doesn't have ultimate. E-Chrome does. A couple more autos, maybe you see that one go up. But both hunters are just fine.
But this might be, this Charon's coin for Zero specifically, might be one of the best, like, god item combinations in this meta. Kills aren't happening a ton, right? You're not finding a ton of kills because it's harder to kill people. You're not getting a ton of assists. It's going to be harder to get stacks on a Charon's coin as time goes on. So having someone who just literally gets them for free, like Xerus hasn't had to put much effort into that. The house has been giving it to him. That, I think, is a huge, huge opening for the Mambo. That's a big power spike you're going to be able to pick up. Base stats, again, are very good on the item, but that's going to be able to evolve it. You're going to feel even better about what you have here. And I think that could open up opportunities that, you know, Angry's going to have to work for, at least work a little bit harder. The thing that's surprising me, and maybe it shouldn't so much, but it's at least a little surprising, is that there's a lack of other stacking items, right? We've been seeing a lot more Warlock staff, you know, Book of Thoths, things like that as of late. And so I feel like you could slot those into your build if you wanted to. It really does depend on the style that you want to go for. And I'd have to go look at, like, SPL Baba Yaga. If we even had one last week, I'd have to refresh my brain if we saw one. But, like, those stacking items, whether or not that it's worth fully investing in, is something that, well, at least right now, Xerus doesn't think so.
Yeah, I wonder if... Okay, he goes Divine Ruin, so does Angry. So literal mirror builds over in mid. But you're right, Gore, that once you get that Charon's coin fully stacked up, nice advantage for Xerus. Could play around the mid lane just a bit. Kana's got some good damage in a Deathwalker here. Rapio close by. Could be some action. But no, Deathwalker will drop the blue buff quietly. Rapio slowed, but has the jump out. Fear no evil, not used. Lord of the Afterlife jumps back in to chase down the Bakasura. Sustains up just a bit, but there's damage from Deathwalker, and Osiris evens the kill score. Blue buff and a kill for Deathwalker at 11.5 minutes.
Not too, I think, surprising to see that amount of pressure get put over there, right? I think Deathwalker is a huge portion of what this late game teamfight's going to be. Let's get some gold on him. And, you know, if you have to use your Lord of the Afterlife, get a little aggressive, get some help from Johnny, yeah, so be it. I mean, Johnny still keeps the Fear No Evil. You still have good teamfight presence. And it opens up, I think, what has become the easiest initial objective to pick up.
Pyromancer countered out by the Fear No Evil. The silence from Calvin will not be enough to help the Dharmic Pillar steal away the Pyro. So Hex Mambo Gore starting to speed things up a bit just as far as early objectives go. Take back the gold lead to the tune of a hefty 500 gold lead for Hex Mambo. The 12 or so minutes, we have seen Pyro. Usually that first objective that gets pulled, a bit easier, a bit lower commitment. One more auto from Kana. Might have gotten that kill onto Deathwalker, but doesn't want to invest the time or the risk in a 12.5-minute Gold Fury way ahead of schedule, pulled by the Highland Ravens. And right from underneath Hex Mambo's nose goes the Fury. And gold bounces right back, 500 or so in the lead are the Ravens.
That's a smart pickup for him, too. Not only does it pretty much make and negate the Pyromancer, but no one's going to be thinking that that's going to be your rotation 12.5 minutes in, right? This meta has slowed things down. You had said it. Like, I mean, 15 minutes at the earliest is where we're getting used to most of these Furies. Echrome had ult, so, like, if they were able to sniff it out, maybe you could have gone for a steal, you know, drop those shots from a good distance, you stay safe. Maybe you find that things, you know, praises of Season 2. Snoopy used to do that all the time in the way back when. And so things that could very much have gone well for Hex Mambo, but just live in the past of not existing. And so you get good gold control, you know, map control still technically slightly in favor of the Ravens here, but nothing crazy. Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned it, but like you're 500-ish gold ahead. It went from 500 one way to 500 the other. And so you're bouncing back and in between these two. That it's really starting to go back to what I had mentioned earlier. Death timers are going to be a lot more important because we're starting to hit portions of the game where you're gone for, you know, 20 seconds to half a minute. And that's going to be enough time that a team can pull some invades. They're going to be able to strip away buffs. Or, you know, if you wait long enough, 20 minutes in, that's a free Fire Giant with just a single pick.
Rapio takes a hammer. So a slight grouping from the Ravens here, answered by a slight grouping from Hex Mambo. Everyone but the carries over by the Pyromancer pit. Kana playing aggressively, but again, minus the carries, Kana not going to be under that much threat. Charon's coin, of course, the percent pen would help out just a bit, as the only Hunter's Garb for Kana will mitigate some of Xeros's damage. Rapio low. Rapio jumped on. The Bakasura's got to leave the fight right at the beginning. Fear No Evil now down, and a transformation out of Trix Tank. Hunters will remain on left, as this is a 4v4 in the Fire Giant pit. Beads off of the King Arthur, but the tether out. Does not end up connecting for a stun, but a Lord of the Afterlife in from Deathwalker will surely put Kana in threat range, and it does. Second kill of the game for Hex Mambo.
Have to chase it down, work a little hard for it, but you get it. And honestly, I think that's a very worthwhile kill. King Arthur, very good at creating space, very good at well, diverting issues, zoning out some of the carries. Maybe there's something you can do with it in 30 seconds where they're off the map, but there's not a lot of jungle over there. We just saw that the Ravens picked up their own Scorpion, so it's not even as though there's going to be even that small invade potential. So you just have to look at it at face value. What does it give you? Well, that was a small lead, so now you give a little bit back over to Deathwalker in terms of control of the lane. You get a little bit of push on that tower, and you open yourselves up for more of your own farm. Yeah, you got to be careful when Calvin's around.
The Ganesh.
And really right now, I'm looking, I don't know if we've seen one already. Yeah, we did. There was a Trebuchet, I think, earlier and left that got destroyed.
Yep.
But that's honestly starting to become, I think, a pretty big aspect of what could be next, where you can push a Trebuchet if you get those offerings in time. Could open up a play towards the Oni Fury in a couple minutes when it's back, or maybe the Pyromancer.
I wonder if these, after Deathwalker takes a look at this blue buff, won't get it, ends up backing away. I am curious how close the hunters are as far as net worth goes, because they have mirrored one another on backs as itemization. So they're
less than 100 gold.
They're 90 gold off from one another. I figured they would be close because every single back and purchase has all been very in sync between these two, between E-Chrome and Vaporish Coast. Zero eyes from anyone else over here on the left side of the map. So we will be entering the mid to late game.
It's because you can't look at Coast right now, right? He's got 90 extra gold. That's at least one ward.
That's true.
That's enough vision that you can't...
He'll look at you with all that extra vision that he's got. These two will now enter the mid to late game. All these next potentially big team fights at the exact same spot, whereas solo lane has seen a lot of emphasis. The blink in from Rapio, but a Lord of the Afterlife out from Deathwalker means he is safe. Where did that health bar go? Rapio wondering the same thing. Has got to jump out, and we have seen one-sided trades in the jungle. And it's all been for Johnny, all been for Hex Mambo up to this point. Ultimate out from Rapio, though. Now Johnny, the one being chased down. Calvin and Angry potentially up and over the wall they go, but Johnny will answer and change. Dharmic Pillars a bit off the mark this time as Johnny has dodged it out. Transformation from Trix Tank slows down this fight and forces Calvin onto the back pedal. Kana, again, the last one on the front line. We've seen this from the King Arthur. But no kills will drop. Too much health, too much tankiness.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we got to see a big difference, though, and something that was maybe very important. Bakasura and the damage that a Baka can do in a fight and dropping ult versus Johnny. Johnny has that Hydras, and Johnny's going to smack you down really hard. If you're squishy, like if that's a King Arthur, if that's Calvin, that probably doesn't make that big of a difference. Right? We're not looking at the health bar taking huge chunks at a time. But if it's Rapio, Angry, or Coast, that's going to do a lot of work. So Johnny has some easy targets. You know that it's going to be a blink, fear no evil, smack, smack. Ideally, someone else hits them once and they're dead. Rapio has the attack speed right now, has the executioner, so they're reducing some of the prots over there, but isn't hitting as hard as what you're getting on the other side.
Another Fury over to the Highland Ravens. So 0 of the Furies have been contested by Hex Mambo. This time an Oni Fury, of course the last one a Gold Fury. Doesn't result in too much, a slight gold lead for the Highland Ravens. Feels like though, Gore, even outside of the gold lead, even though the Highland Ravens have controlled these Furies, it feels like Hex Mambo have been more in control of the initiation and the team fights. A lot of it between these two, between Johnny and Rapio. A Fear No Evil in a full rotation has just out-traded Rapio, it feels like, and that's given a nice edge over to Hex Mambo, who seem to be the ones driving a bit more of the kill pressure over here on right.
And I'm interested that it's mostly on right. Well, I guess at this point I'm less interested in it. There's a Fire Giant and a Pyromancer, right? There's a good reason to be over here with the Oni Fury already being down. But, you know, Kana's build, and you can see it here, like not only does it not do a ton of damage back to Deathwalker, but he doesn't take a lot of damage in the process either. So it's a lot of effort to maybe try and take down this King Arthur, to the point where it's almost surprising they did it once already. But I think that it's going to be this battle of the front line. You can see Deathwalker just now finish the Oni Hunter's Garb, might go back and finish that previous tank item just to have a little more of that punch, or I guess tankability in the next fight and give them that frontline presence. Because other than that, team fight-wise, you're really relying on Johnny and then eventually probably Uchrome's rotations. You need something for these objectives.
Wow, neutral objectives again over to the Highland Ravens.
Yeah.
So Hex Mambo got an early Pyromancer, and that's it. 2 Furies and now another Pyro, but this time over to the Highland Ravens. So 3 out of 4 of the neutral jungle objectives over to the Highland Ravens up to this point. Again, hasn't resulted in an absurd gold lead, but now a 1.3K or so, about the largest we've gotten in the first 20 minutes of this game. And it does look like, Gore, we are going to get a slight separation in Hunter builds. Or Porsche Coast will be coming into this next fight with a fully built-up Wind Demon, and then kin size for Echrome. So more health and tank shred on Hex Mambo's side for the Ram, and then Porsche Coast itemizing into that crit a bit further, hoping to chunk down some of the squishies.
Yeah, and honestly, that's going to be a big difference maker. Heimdall hits really slowly, but really hard with every single one of those autos. With the Silver Branch, with the Ichabal, with the Aussie, you've made up for the slowly part of that. And now with the crit, you're going to chunk people.
Rapio blinks forward. Deathwalker, a bit more bruisery, but only in one item. Still plenty of tankiness in the Osiris kit. Lord of the Afterlife flies through, but Johnny's an afterthought as Rapio has paid back early jungle pressure to the tune of a kill. Now zeros into the ultimate. Should be a kill here, and it is. An answer back now from Deathwalker, though. Angry joining from mid lane as Vaporish Coast has gotten some assistance from Calvin over on left. The fight rages on here on right. Ends up being a map-wide 2-for-1 trade. But a 1-for-1 over here on right, and then a 1 versus 2 kill for Vaporish, or no, a 2 versus 1 kill rather for Vaporish Coast onto Echrome.
And it's just unfortunate, right? With 2 people over there in left lane, that's like the opening you want if you're Hex Mambo.
Yeah, agreed.
To try and step forward, go for a Fire Giant, get something on the right-hand side. But you don't have the people for it. You had just the damage from zeros, and that's not enough in my eyes this early on. Well, quote-unquote early on, to do enough to the Fire Giant. And Coast, I mean, that one was pretty much just clean cut, right? With Calvin there and Coast
for
there.
auto attacked.
Yeah, they made it work out really well. I think that the difference is going to be where the impact for these hunters is during team fights. I think that Echrome's going to hit pretty hard on a lot of the front line, is potentially going to take away some of the problems. Calvin, Kana, not going to be able to survive as long as they did throughout those last fights. Or, I guess in this case, just survive at all in these last fights. And so that should make a big difference for them, but you have to rotate for it, right? And I think that now, it's almost that weird state. You've lost your tower. And, I don't know, with the Primal Fury coming up, I guess right now there's still a good amount of pressure that you still want on the left-hand side. So go ahead, farm up, try to hold on to what you can. Get that next item after the chin size. I want to see where Echrome's going with this. But pretty soon, I expect to see bigger rotations. I expect to see Coast, I expect to see Echrome, and they need to be prevalent, not just for the FG, but for the Pyromancer that happens around there. Like, once this Primal Fury disappears, there's almost no reason to be on left and
Right, yeah, unless you're split pushing, getting towers, likely team fighting happening elsewhere. So Zeros ends up sticking with only the Charon's coin as far as stacking items go. Divine Ruin, of course, anti-heal's nice. Soul Reaver there, Soul Gem. So there's plenty of burst for Zeros. It's a great build, but just a bit different from some of the stacking items that we've seen, especially when they synergize so well with that Baba Yaga kit. Current Pillar's down on the Primal Fury. Rapio swinging away with the Highland Ravens, able to secure it, despite snipes from Echrome dropping down from the other side of the map. So now 3-4-3 Furies in this game, quietly confirmed by the Highland Ravens, and Gore, a 4,000 gold lead has built up as such. The Highland Ravens have just farmed out, got the neutral objectives, and Hex Mambo have simply not stepped up.
And a lot of that is starting to show itself in the items. You can see, I think, a couple of spots where it's maybe equal in itemization right now, but I think we're going to see some back soon.
I don't think Echrome wins that. Maybe he does.
Ooh.
Does he have snipes? No. All right, maybe he does. Vaporish Coast hoping for another crit or two, but Echrome, the kin size and the sustain, able to force the Aegis and the Bifrost away from Vaporish Coast.
They really are still within 90 of each other. That's nuts. Okay, now it's finally a little separate because a wave just got picked up, but that's the only difference.
Oh no, that was
Golden Hand. But still within 90 of each other.
Yeah, right. It's the golden hand. 1.3K or so. So not crazy different, but tier 2 item or so. Starter item upgraded for Vaporish Coast. E-Chrome now, yes, a tier 2 item behind of Vaporish Coast. So it is time. It's time to get this Heimdall involved outside of lane.
Yeah, those crits should be hitting a lot more often as well with the tier 2.
Yep.
It's not like a huge power spike, but like it's just higher crit chance.
Look, I love this play from the Ravens. We're not worried about fighting. We're going to drop Dharmic Pillars. We're going to shred every objective on the map. We're going to build up a gold lead. And then come team fight time, we're just going to be ahead. So there is still pushback potential from Hex Mambo Gore. But I just have not seen any map play from them up to this point. All of the gold, all the neutral gold has been funneling the Highland Ravens.
That's honestly a little
Fire
wild
Giant.
to me. You think, yeah, with the Coerce and the auto attackers, I feel like you've got a pretty good advantage to burn down objectives from Mambo. The downside is, secure, right? You have to rely on a Baba Yaga. What, at this point, maybe a potion, maybe her one? Like, not a lot of damage and burst ability for it. Versus Angry on the other side, having maybe slightly harder hitting abilities a little more consistently. So it feels like a risk to pull it no matter what.
Uh-oh, Deathwalker low. Has to use his ultimate to jump out, and is a minute and a half away from having that teleport back. So if the solo laner has to reset, it's going to be a long walk back to lane. Tier 1 tower gone. Highland Ravens find more gold on the map, and it's just pressure into Hex Mambo. E-Chrome finds good damage on Akana here. Although the Highland Ravens, how quickly they've pulled some of these objectives. You imagine now with the Fire Giant a bit more cautious on pulling the big one, especially when you don't have Dharmic, or you do have Dharmic Pillars rather, ready to go. Vaporish Coast does not have his ultimate, so some safety missing, especially with Aegis still down for 35 seconds from the Highland Ravens ADC. I guess you got to look for that initiation if you're Hex Mambo at this point. This game has slowly bled away from you. Big Fear No Evil could be a difference maker.
I mean, not only a big Fear No Evil, I think there's the conversation. You had mentioned the Dharmic Pillars. They've been using it strictly for burn so far. But I feel like around an FG, you almost need that, not just for burn, maybe for zone as well. And so having to make that coin flip for Calvin, it's a very weighted coin flip, right? Like with the way they've been burning things, with the fact that I think they have slightly better secure, at least from their mage, than what we'd see out of the Baba Yaga. Probably going to be more like 65-35 on one side, maybe 70-30. But it does maybe help them out a little.
Talked about that Coerce. Out it comes for Trickstech on E-Chrome and Zeros. Kana taking a whole heap of damage. Dharmic Pillar's down, but it's only trapped Trickstech right where he is. Kana will be the first casualty as a Fear No Evil snags the frontliner. Vaporish Coast desperately running away. Gets his Aegis back. Has to use ultimate and beads to buy some space. And now Hex Mambo can regroup, but Johnny wants more. Rapio will get out of this one alive. Vaporish Coast desperately trying to sustain even just a little bit, though. Hex Mambo Gore, they've got the space and they've got the FG pull.
Look, the KO for a minute on Kana, the TKO there on Rapio. Now they might get more on Angry. This is exactly what you need to get back in the game.
Oh, but the Aegis from Angry saves his life, and Vaporish Coast sends the autos to the Hex Mambo jungler. Vaporish Coast, though, will pay for his crimes. And down goes the Heimdall for the first time this game. Calvin close and in range. And a conveyor belt happening here around the Fire Giant as Rapio now joins the party. E-Chrome's got a double Hex. Mambo shut down the fight, pick up the Fire Giant, and grab a big advantage.
I mean, a huge swing of kills. And, again, maybe a little upsetting. Johnny doesn't get the FG buff. That would be really nice in some of these fights for the power it's going to give you. I don't think Johnny's that upset about it, or at least they shouldn't be, because E-Chrome, with a build like this and the towers that are up with a Fire Giant buff, this is going to be one of the biggest gold infusions, well, actually the only real gold infusion outside of an early Pyromancer that Hex and Mambo have gotten to receive all game. And so I expect a lot of really successful tower pushes, and probably from the Ravens having to play it safe. I think that fight showcased, one, maybe some indecisiveness. You called it out, but like a conveyor belt, going in with the one kill early on Kana. It kind of kept them in a weird spot in limbo of, okay, can we fight, can we not fight? It's a 4v5, what do we do? And then it all explodes. Angry is able to turn one around. That gives him a bolster of confidence, right? Okay, cool, that Aegis works well. Let's turn it in, let's see what we can get. And then they bite off more than they can shoot. Coast was low, but Coast had been hitting hard. Coast ends up taking one step too far, and it's a pretty easy kill for them to pick up. Then Rapio goes in, then Calvin goes in. They're trying to power up that Fire Giant and steal it away as best they can. There's just too little to do if you're one person at that point. So it became a lot easier to pick up the kills. And I don't know if you can. Well, that's not true. I know you can't afford to do that again, right?
Right.
You have to be on the same page. And I think with the way these team fights are, with how devastating a single pick can be, I don't think I want to defend a tier 2. Not with the build that Echrome has and the Fire Giant buff on it. I want to let these fall, let them have the gold, because like at this point, they're just barely catching up to you. And then defend a Phoenix. You've got a much better composition to defend that far back. It funnels them into you, and it makes things pretty strong and gives you a 6-man to work with that's pretty powerful.
Oh, just now, gold flipped back to even. Was a hefty lead for the Highland Ravens. Now, a Phoenix Siege being considered. Fear No Evil down, forces the beads out of Kana. One-man Fear No Evil. Far from worst-case scenario now for the Highland Ravens, as their soul laner had to use beads, but everyone else able to avoid it. Snipes up. Vaporish Coast dangerously low. The calculations from Echrome were on point and nearly got a kill onto the Highland Ravens ADC. He'll have to go back to the fountain and sustain up. Trebuchet walks in, and the left side Phoenix goes down.
Yeah, sometimes with things like that, you just need the TKO, right? Like those snipes come out, would have been sick. If you get that kill, I think we watch Mambo push for the end. But you don't get the kill, you just want to get the Phoenix. You're able to pick that up. Honestly, maybe surprised, a little upset. There's the minion wave. Maybe it'll knock down the tier 2. But very close in mid to being able to find another bit of bonus gold.
No. Oh. That's got to be the lowest tower I've ever seen with it going down.
And this is what sucks. That is like a passing thought. Like you could walk by, breathe on that tower, it's going to crumble.
Right, at some point this game.
Until it falls down, you don't get the gold for it.
Gold,
so like you're just sitting there like, I'm upset because that's money that they could have in their pockets that's just not there. Granted, with all the power spikes they just hit, I don't know that it's going to be like enough to push anyone fully over the edge. What is it? 1,500 gold, 300 for every single player. You can afford the wards that are already in your inventory. It's not going to be like, cool, I'm getting my tier 3 items now. So it's not the end of the world, but it still hurts.
Still hurts. It's more of a emotional pain than anything, right? Kana's feeling some real life pain right now, and he's gonna die.
Yeah.
As Rapio goes back in, aggressive on his own. Snipe 1 good, 2 no good, 3 no good, but Rapio is out of the fight. So 1 lowly tier 2 remains in mid, but nothing that Hex Mambo are really all that worried about. 45 seconds without the King Arthur. The Highland Ravens have to defend. Trix Tank gets the knockback. Or Vaporish Coast rather gets a knockback on a Trix Tank. Transformation now out of the Fafnir. Locked out from Calvin, but has he put himself in a bad spot? Yes, he has. But Coast suddenly stepping up. Already has a double kill. 1 auto away from a triple. Falls for the triple. Is zeros. Vaporish Coast now walks forward. And the kid makes it happen again. A triple kill to keep your right side Phoenix alive.
And honestly, if Deathwalker and Johnny hadn't gotten as far away as they just did, we're looking at a pentakill, man. That is just feeling too good for Coast. But you wipe out the push, you stop the Fire Giant in its tracks. They are just at the worst timing, I think, for Hex Mambo, right? The only thing that could be worse for them would be if they had like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 more seconds on there, just making it last a little longer after the FG spawns. But now they're going to be respawning with it. And so that should give the advantage with Coast, with Angry, and Kana. They should burn this FG at the minute it spawns.
Right. I mean, you got to pull it the second it comes out, which the Highland Ravens do. Johnny just used Fear No Evil, so steal potential pretty low, but Deathwalker is here as well, and the Highland Ravens confirm the enhanced Fire Giant. Johnny has to leave, but Rapio did as well, and Deathwalker's got range damage to take down his target. Angry will return the favor, so a 1-for-1 trade, but enhanced Fire Giant for the Ravens.
I mean, this is, I think, good control. So here's what happened. The Ravens were winning this game. They make a big fumble around the FG. And it gives a couple, like a touchdown back over to the other side, right?
Yeah, so this is great for me.
you get into a position where the Mambo are in control of the game for a little bit. They even things out, Dave, but they didn't get to a true win state, right? Knocking down that Phoenix was maybe the best for them. And it didn't give them too much. I mean, it's already almost respawned. Fire Giant's now on the other side. Johnny's still gone for another 20 seconds, but you're not in a better spot either if you're the Ravens now. Like, you still have a lot of work to do on the map to get to the same area.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you close up the gold gap, and, well, that was really a setup, Fire Giant, to end the game, it feels like, for Hex Mambo. I think if you don't get that right side Phoenix, which they didn't, and you don't get triple killed, you're totally fine with how that Fire Giant went. You got the gold back, you're in control, you got a Fire Minions pouring down the left side of the map. But now suddenly you die right as the next FG comes up, the enhanced FG, and the game is flipped around again. So I think even if you throw an attempt out of the right side Phoenix, if you're not feeling good about it, you go back and reset, you get the left side Phoenix down. Giving up that triple kill specifically makes that first Fire Giant just brutal for Hex Mambo. And now the Highland Ravens scored. They now have a lot of gold left on the map that they can build back up. Gold mattering less and less. Effectively everyone in the game at full build at this point. Maybe some relics still needing to be upgraded. You're still looking at power pots, things like that. Highland Ravens are going to get a nice infusion. Alrighty, Vaporish Coast infusing some advantage to Hex Mambo now as he walks forward. Doesn't get the Aegis in time, uses the beads, but now one by one Hex Mambo are going to crumble. What is happening here now? E-Chrome trades back with a triple kill of his own on the left side of the map. These Hunters exchanging blows, but it's Hex Mambo looking better for it now, and at 35 minutes, it's only Angry left alive.
And you know what? It comes down to Death Timers. Look, I think Angry has a lot of good damage and not a lot of room to work with. I don't know that you can make it back to the base in the space you need.
I'm going to bet all my gems this game is over.
Yeah, it's starting to, it definitely feels that way. Look, you've got 5 people, even without the enhanced FG. You should be able to walk this into the Titan room pretty easily.
Deathwalker agrees. We'll use Lord of the Afterlife simply to get there faster. Hex, that is unbelievable. Highland Ravens get a triple kill on defense, and Hex Mambo way on the back foot, and then Hex Mambo get a triple kill on defense. But the Death Timers, all the difference. The Porsche Coast is coming back up.
Triple kill?
Yeah, right. That's a pentakill for Coast. No, and game number 1 over to Hex Mambo. Takes a minute. 36 of them, in fact. And some back and forth, some up and down. The Mambo bought their time and bought themselves a win.
In 36 minutes of gameplay, though, there was like 6 that the Mambo were ever in like full control, right? Gold and experience was in favor of the Ravens for the other 30, and it really was just those small moments. It's, little plays around the Fire Giant, missteps from the Ravens that give the Mambo a lead, and then one really nasty play around the Phoenix for the other Hunter this time, at least there for the Mambo to be able to find it. I mean, triple kills at Phoenix Lines apparently were just the devastating blows this game.
Slow starter, but we heated things up towards the end of game number 1. Hex Mambo take a 1-0 lead in this set. Can the Ravens bounce back in game 2? You got to stick around and find out. what that's from, Gore.
You don't?
No, what's it from?
Popeye.
Just Popeye in general?
Yeah, like the Sailor Man.
You're right, I know that.
What
but
is
like,
oh man, what's the
it's
guy's
surely
name?
one of the episodes or something. Anyway, welcome back to the EUSCC Hex Mambo. Able to take game number 1 over the Highland Ravens, a back-and-forth affair where both teams had an FG, both hunters had triple kills, and only one team wins. And it's Hex Mambo after their triple kill was a bit better timed as far as death timers go. A slow start to this game ends up culminating in some aggressive team fighting, Gore, most of it on defense, though. And again, I think the timing so much better for Hex Mambo here with death timers, a bit more convincing of a kill. And remember, map stayed a little bit better as well, because even though that first FG went bad for Hex Mambo, they knocked down all the towers, they opened up some Phoenixes, and they made the game end possible a little bit quicker.
They had a weaker Titan that they had to deal with, and admittedly, apparently we're just hitting really hard, as it turns out. I think that, we got a very, I'm going to call it methodical game from them, right? It's 2 late-game team compositions, both of which have junglers that really want to farm for the first however long, like 3 items anyway. So I didn't expect it to be explosive. I mean, look, it's 6 kills, 27 minutes in. They weren't finding a lot of fights, a lot of engagements. The Ravens were doing really well in terms of gold for a majority of the game, though, finding a lot of the Furies, every Fury, I think, actually, throughout the game until, like, the very end. And every Pyromancer except for the first one. They pretty much everything except the one Fire Giant that they dropped, they had controlled. So a lot of neutral gold was going into their pockets and giving them that little bit of a power gap. But it's the same thing I had said very early on in that game, which was if the Mambo as a whole didn't want to fight, they are really good at disengaging. And unfortunately for the Ravens, anytime that they could have potentially had a fight that would give that advantage, that gold, and push it even further, it just all fell apart. And then you get to the point where, and you called it before this even started, you're at late game, you're even in gold, everybody's 6 slotted and has full items anyway. It's just the difference of, did you get power potions? How are your relics fully upgraded or not? You've got some temporal beads on the side of the Ravens versus Mambo just having the tier 2. And it didn't matter because Angry comes out. He only has the 2 crit items. Did sell that Ichabal, I think, early for that Deathbringer, and gets the crits that Coast had got, 30, 40 seconds earlier around the same Phoenix, just mirrored.
Brutal game for Rapio as well, who just never really got it going on this Bakasura. 7.5k damage, only higher than his own support. Even Trix Tank had more damage here in this game. And again, obviously there are moments that Rapio would like to have back. But I just think that Johnny was just running the jungle this game. The Fear No Evils were so good at disengaging. You talk about just disengage in general. Hard for Bakasura to chase that down. And though Coast had a fantastic KDA and is the only reason that game went on as long as it did, stepped a bit too far forward at the wrong time at the end of game 1. And that pick ultimately makes a massive difference here as Hex Mambo send us into picks and bans for game number 2. With a 1-game advantage. So Heimdall was left open, was given over to Vaporish Coast. Does that happen again? I think Hex Mambo are feeling fine about the way that their hunter play went.
Well,
but you might have to consider something here because again, Vaporish Coast, a large reason that the Ravens were in that game that long.
You've got a 36-minute game.
Yeah.
1/6 of that, the Mambo were in control. Granted, that 1/6 killed a lot of towers, opened up a Phoenix, and won them the game. But that's not. I'm not like basing my career on that 6 minutes. You know what I mean? I think that it's one of those things that I don't think the Heimdall was specifically the problem, although Coast triple kills them around a Phoenix line and very easily repels a Fire Giant push that could have been the end of the game. And so I think that this is something that still needs to be worried about a little bit if you are the Mambo. So how do you deal with it? They clamped it down. Like you said, the hunter play was really good. But are there better ways to maybe try and lock this away? I think actually a lot of it might be play on the field.
Now, Gore, that game was the first time Heimdall has lost here in this phase of the EUSCC. 5 games played and only 1 loss, and it was just that one that we saw there. So Heimdall, a very strong pick.
And now it's just tarnished Coast's name forever.
Yeah, that guy's not very good at Heimdall, is he? Why bother picking it for him first and foremost? I don't know. Couldn't be me. Hunbat's a big pivot here for the Highland Ravens from a hyper late game auto attack scaling style jungler for Rapio into set up more ability based damage. Of course you can proc Hydras, things like that, but you want to burst down if you're this Hunbats. So the playstyle looks a little bit different now for the Highland Ravens, and I think that is a good pivot for this Ravens squad. The Bakasura just didn't quite get it done. Now you've got Fear No Evil and Dharmic Pillar Score. The team fight looks a lot better.
Honestly, I think that it, like you said, team fight looks a lot better. I think you need to be worried elsewhere, though, because I think that right now Johnny maybe isn't going to be on the Hunbats, but there's still a few picks. Granted, they're dwindling that I think are very powerful. You know, with the Mercury and the Nemesis already gone, I think it becomes very difficult to then, find those maybe early ones. Yeah, Loki, Baka, Kali. A lot of bands that unfortunately are slowly trimming down what we can maybe expect from Johnny. But who cares? You got a triple kill. I think you had a good performance on the Baba Yaga, a great performance on the Osiris, a great performance on the Rom. And now we get Trixtank Sobek as well. So, you trade out what was the Hunbats and a good teamfight presence there for really good pick potential coming from the Sobek.
Well, the Ravens, if they lock in this team at, effectively just saying that it was really only the Bakasura as far as team composition that felt out of sorts that game, which might make some sense because the Ravens were winning in every facet other than the team fighting phase. Except for the nice triple kill, as we've mentioned, from Vaporish Coast. Remember all the objectives, all the early neutral objectives going to the Highland Ravens. Having a Bakasura, that said, helps in that regard, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we can understate that a bit of a change between Hunbats and Bakasura as far as objective damage goes. And then a big pivot for Hex Mambo here, Gore. A Wheelix, not a pick that we have seen very often. And maybe a little bit of synergy here on the squad for Hex Mambo as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this one. It feels like it's been a while since I've seen a Wheelish.
But it's been a while.
Someone, yeah. Okay? So ready for this one? You've now derailed this just for a second.
Just for a second.
Katie, there's like 5 or 6 Nickelback songs Katie just really enjoys, and her playlists are not big enough that they don't they come up a little more often than you would maybe want to hear them.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
You're
it's
saying
and they're not like bad songs
inherently.
They're interesting, but they're not necessarily my favorite. Like, if you're asking me, hey, man, you could, one song and it's the last song that you ever get to hear, you have to listen to it for the rest of your life. None of those Nickelback songs are going to be...
Photograph.
Well, that one I enjoy, but mainly because of the meme.
You're right.
When it's,
look at this graph.
Yeah.
The best there is. All right, into game 2 we go between Hex Mambo and the Highland Ravens. And I do want to start our conversation, Gore, around the jungle.
About Nickelback. No, okay.
Yes. I gave you a nickel a few months ago. I'd like it back, please. I need it for, what can you buy? A car wash. A Coke 50 years ago.
A Hamburger Tuesday?
A Hamburger
Tuesday. You'll pay me a nickel Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Let's talk about this jungle, though, Gora. Wheelix versus the Hunbats. Hunbats we saw last game, worked out for Johnny.
Yeah.
Not only bullying out Rapio, but some good team fighting later on.
Yeah.
Wheelix, are we liking it? Are we bought on this pick?
But I do genuinely outside of the synergy that you technically have with Trixtank, which is going to be helpful. I just think a Wheelish can get a little more hands-on early on. I think she's got good farm, good travel time across the map. I expect to see more fight from the Mambo this time around, right? I think with Sobek on the team and with a Wheelish, this is a comp that wants to get more and play a little more actively earlier. It might not be within the first 5 minutes we'll have 6 kills, because 9-5 kind of killed that mentality. But, by 10 minutes, 15 minutes, unless they want to play it slower, if things go, dramatically wrong, I expect they should have a lead in kills, because that's going to lead them to a lot of breath.
Right, but how big of a lead?
It's going to be variable. And also whether or not they actually want to pursue it, because, a lot of these picks are just really good late-game team fighters as well. And I could see that the Mambo doing what they did last game, where it's cool, 25 minutes in, there's 6 kills on the board, now we're going to fight.
Yeah, Gora, outside of what? Jungle outside of Johnny's pick and Trixtank's pick, and then, of course, Rapio on the Hunbats this game, we've got 7 of the other same gods that we got in game number 1 in the same exact role as they were in game number 1. So it's up to the players and their differences in rotations and abilities to make plays to change things up from how game number 1 went. Though I think if both hunters have it their way, they're probably just fine. I think Coast, probably aggravated with a loss, but still realizes that individually his game went pretty well in game 1, and Echrome feels the same, just got the win. And so I don't know if Coast or Echrome really feel like much needs to change. They can just chill out, farm up to 20, get those items online, go from there. Deathwalker agrees. Looks like another Soul Eater start, which ended up being pretty helpful, because remember, it was first blood pretty early in game 1 around that blue buff.
Yeah.
but the Soul Eater ended up being pretty effective in sort of slowing down that lane. And I don't know if we ever really got to see a chance for Kana to flex those muscles. So it was more a lot of I'm tanky and staying alive and not a lot of I'm running you down and killing you off.
It was that kill gave me sovereignty, and now nothing's going to happen over here.
Right.
I can't kill you, you can't kill me, and so we'll just stare at each other awkwardly until
stare at me awkwardly.
Something happens. Well, I think like prolonged eye contact, like after a certain amount of time, it gets awkward, right?
Which
like,
eye do you look at?
Your left, apparently.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you were looking at me and you said, which eye do I look at? And that's the one I'm honed in on.
Right.
But I think that might be the lighting.
Could be the lighting. I also have a droopy eye, so that might have been the one.
I didn't notice.
One of my eyelids like fully closes up, and the other like stays open a little bit further.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see what you mean.
This means nothing to anyone who's watching this game. So maybe that's what you were noticing. At any rate, Gore, I was looking at your right eye, if you were wondering. I do. All right, I just had to get that little giggle out, and we're right back on track. I do wonder, as Calvin is a bit low here, if Zeros ends up switching up his build at all. Because although it worked out in game one, because he got Warlock Staff last. Last item in that game.
I think it was still stacking at the very end of the game.
Because you get so much value from early Charon's coin on Baba, because you get that stacked up so quickly, or Warlocks, all of it. Now I'm like a stacking fiend on Baba. If it can stack, I want it. Give me Thieves. Give me. You can't build Soul Eater, but toss that in there. Why not? Jokes aside, I love all of the magical stacking items on Baba because I don't know. It feels like you get so much value out of it, and it makes your late game appear a bit earlier. But Zero's, he's got something figured out here. Looks like Charon's coin at least first, but wouldn't hate an earlier Warlock Staff, something like that. Get the wheels turning a bit faster.
I think, what was it, last game it was Charon's coin into the Divine Ruin.
Divine Ruins,
and that
Soul
one was,
Reaver.
I think, a little surprising. Like, Flat Pin lately, at least for mages, has been less beneficial, I think, early on. So, and I don't think there's a lot of healing to deal with.
All right, more early fighting around a blue buff. As Kana will try to spin away, won't be able to do so. A pluck, or rather, spin in, and a pluck from Trix Tank sends Kana headed the wrong way. Looks like blue buff confirmed by Hex Mambo. Provided no kills occur, which looks like they won't. That's a clean invade and out for Hex Mambo, and a small advantage early in the game.
And this is a very heavy, might have been able to...
We're doing a lot of speculating here because it's the same as game one.
Yeah, well, and it's moments like this, right? Like, you could probably get that if Johnny gets in faster.
Yeah! All right, early kill for Hex Mambo, this time on Kana. So he had an early first blood in game one under the solo lane. Happens again, but this time it's Johnny. And Gore, admittedly, that is threatening. So Wheelish for Johnny with a first blood and a bit of a lead has gone Golden Blade, so you'll be able to farm up quickly. I actually think this could be a springboard moment for Hex Mambo. A slight enough lead, a nice start for Johnny on a pick that can snowball games. And
I honestly think that this is a pick that again, can get a lot more proactive faster than either of the picks we saw last game. Maybe, Hunbats, I think, can start playing now, but, with the Transcendence start right here, you're going to be a little slower. You're probably wanting to get that stacked up as fast as possible, and jungle stacks, and specifically stacks in general, can be difficult to come by when you're playing out of there. So it's going to take a little bit to get that going, which means that Johnny has free reign right now, right? With the first blood as well, you've already finished your Golden Blade. Like, I think that you can farm a little bit better, farm a little bit faster, and potentially look for some of these ganks and maybe find even more kills. Red buff invade is good by Calvin and Rapio, but E-Chrome rotating through in the mist. I don't think really all that surprising, though, that E-Chrome was there. And it looks like a red buff drop is all that the Highland Ravens were looking for. Yeah, unless, the ominous nature of Trix Tank just being close by means you got to be ever careful. And that's props to Coast for his patience on his beads. Because the moment I see a Sobek flying at me, I'm mashing my beads whether it hits me or not. So Coast, realizing that his positioning was good there, holds onto the beads. And when you got a Sobek hanging around, having those beads so important. Heimdall, of course, has the ultimate, but you'd love to hold on to that. Though, maybe we'll take ult instead of having to use the beads any day of the week. Bit of a different start, though, Gore, from the Highland Raven solo laner. Kana, instead of going right into the Sovereignty, Stone of Gaia ends up being the first item. And if you assume you're going to be getting knocked up and pulled back by Johnny and Trix Tank, Stone of Gaia should get him some value. Yeah, it should. I think a lot of it's less going to be off like the pluck and maybe the initial knock-up from Johnny specifically, because at least in my mind, I'm not going for the King Arthur in a late game team fight.
Pluck and pull and angry. A bit out of sorts though. Dharmic Pillars and Fear No Evil returns the favor. Trix Tank lurking in the waters avoids all of it. And this one will fizzle out. I thought a pretty nice initiation there between Trix Tank and Johnny. But Angry able to get out alive. And that does show you some counter initiation that the Highland Ravens will have this game. The Dharmic Pillars dropped the Fear No Evil around in some of these fights as well. Trix Tank's got to be careful without lurking in the waters, but looks like he'll be just fine.
It's that knock-up though, right? Like his little spin, being able to do more of a 2, 3, 4-man knock-up in the right clusters. That's the one that I expect to see the Stonagaya get like the most off of. Yeah, I think especially early on, you've already got a kill on Kana. Getting another 1 or 2 wouldn't be bad, so I think it's going to be helpful to have this to maybe ward off Johnny early on. But late game, it's just going to be a little bit of extra tankiness when you're up next to Sobek, and Sobek inevitably hits you with some sort of knock-up that it's going to then enable you to potentially either survive a little bit longer or withstand a little bit more while you retreat. Unfortunately, in lane and just in direct matchup, it does give Deathwalker, I think, more capabilities to bully out Kana. Not to the point where I think we're going to see any crazy kills unless, there's some help, but enough that you can get aggressive on a blue buff.
You can get aggressive on a blue buff, and Deathwalker feeling just fine. Picks up the blue buff. So Kana, now 2 levels behind Deathwalker, has missed out on a couple blue buffs in a row. So we're seeing the solo lane go a bit differently from how it did in game 1, where literally nothing happened outside of an early kill, and then a return kill for Deathwalker onto Rapio a bit later. Now Deathwalker actually able to extend out that lead just a bit. It was 2 levels, call it a level and a half, and 2 levels in the jungle gore, and then a 1-level lead for Angry over 0. So actually between jungle and solo, Hex Mambo feeling pretty comfortable with the way this early game has gone.
Yeah, I think that this is a massive turnaround in comparison to what we saw last time. Neutral objectives haven't been touched yet, so maybe there's going to be some openings. Pyromancer's going to spawn soon enough. It's been, 12 minutes in-ish, maybe even slightly earlier, that we've been able to see some teams kind of faint over there. But with the damage and the control they have right now, I like where Mambo have their pressure. I think that they're in a good spot to be able to take the gold lead they have, continue their invades, start finding neutral farm when it spawns up, and really flex that into team fights that are going to go their way. And I think it's a dangerous spot to be in if you're the Ravens.
Deathwalker used his ultimate towards Kana just a moment ago. Johnny short of the pull. Means that Kana will be all right. With that Stonagaya, I think if Johnny even pulled Kana there, the sustain might have been enough just to keep the King Arthur in the fight. Knock up, pull, this time on Rapio, who again answers with the Fear No Evil, but another Dharmic Pillars draped on top means disengage, but Johnny here and none of it. Second kill of the game for the Awilix. Could be a third if Calvin is slowed down, but Kana able to do just that towards Johnny. Stun connects from the King Arthur. And from over the wall, Angry will make sure that Hex Mambo disengage.
And there's going to be, again, that small bit is all it needs. The tail whip from the Sobek is enough to knock Kana up, and that gets the proc, right? I don't think they're going to be looking for knockups from Mulish. I don't think you're looking for the pluck onto Kana. But if you can get that, which is going to almost guaranteed happen if Trix Tank is trying to peel for his team, it's going to either help you continue as Kana to continue surging forward, or help you get out of there, right, a little bit quicker. But you get to see, I think, the ease of access. In a team fight, a Fear No Evil, if beads are up for Johnny, the damage being done right now by the Awilish is just a little too much more to handle than what you're able to dish out at this time. So you need... I mean, we saw Johnny wait for hi-rez last time around before he really started getting active. And I don't think I would hate that for Rapio, just waiting until that's finished.
Rapio's been sitting on the tiny little fork for what feels like a few minutes.
That's the mini hot dog spear, right? Like you're at a cocktail party, and that's like the slightly fancier toothpick that they put in them.
Yeah, I get one of those in like a drink at the beach with an umbrella on it, and I'm feeling good about myself. But if that's the item I'm sitting on for like 5 minutes in
and like you spent like gold on it, like that's a lot of money.
I'm not feeling great. Johnny picks up one of his own. I was gonna say, I'm trying to remember. We've seen so few Awilix games. I don't know if is Golden Blade Stone like auto attack centric standard on an Awilix. I feel like I'm used to seeing big burst damage. You get ability based damage online, of course with Stone Cutting and Golden Blade. you can diversify your damage up a bit. And hi-rez, of course, will help with ability, big burst damage. But I think this is a bit unique, at least to my own eyes, from what I'm used to seeing.
It feels very 9-5-y, right? Like it is like the, okay, what was a Wheelish doing, 6 months ago, 3 months ago? And what can you do now? Like, these builds, I think Transcendence has been like a very big item, but, you're looking at your farm, you want to speed it up, you want to do a little better. I think that she hits enough auto attacks in between abilities that it's helpful when you add in the hi-rez. Again, I think that this is going to be a fun build to watch. I think Johnny's going to absolutely slam with the damage that's going to be coming out of this.
Trixtank throws a pluck towards Rapio. Knock up, goodbye, says Rapio. With the Fear No Evil, all right, Lord of the Afterlife.
Says Rapio.
Will remedy that situation just fine. Calvin throws up a silence as Connor rather, throws up one member of Hex Mambo, who will dash away. And damage out of mid means disengage. Hex Mambo, another clean kill, and another setup by Johnny. Could be more, though. It's a tower dive over the horizon.
I mean, they're so low. The explosive bolt's doing so much. Wow, the range on that is just enough.
And Zeros has got it, an answer.
Oh no.
Not there for the Ravens until Angry sends some damage towards Deathwalker. Finally a kill back by the Highland Ravens. This early game has just gotten away from them. Only 4 kills, but 3,500 gold and nearly 2,500 experience. And Hex Mambo wriggle even more control. Kano's just had a tough time. Rapio again, now back-to-back tough starts to game 1 and game 2 alike. Hex Mambo feel comfortable, I think, with the way that the first 14 minutes have gone here. The leads are falling in the necessary locations, namely Johnny, and Johnny's ability now to continue to springboard this lead forward.
And at this point, you've got to look at where maybe some of these big power spikes are going to be alternating. You did finish the hi-rez now if you're Rapio, so maybe you can start doing something bigger in these fights. A Fear No Evil into a couple of smacks will hit hard.
That took a minute.
But you've got beads up for Johnny, beads up for Zeros, beads up for Echrome. The people that you're going to be targeting are probably going to be able to get out of it at least pretty quickly. And I don't know that you win the 1v1 with Johnny, right? If you go for the Fear No Evil, Johnny then immediately hits the beads. I think Johnny comes out on top in terms of damage dealt in a quick burst amount of time.
Yeah.
Maybe you chase down Zeros. I think getting either the beads or the Aegis from Zeros or Echrome at this rate of the game is going to feel pretty good for you. But we haven't seen a lot of left-focused gameplay from either of these squads. I mean, like we have one game.
Is even an overstatement. We have seen none.
Well, there was one play.
Oh, that's right.
Last game where Calvin and Coast come together to kill Echrome, and that was the only play over there.
But it has been over on right all set long, and that continues here. Johnny breaks some ankles and somehow is going to survive with the help of Trixtank. And now the disengage through from the Highland Ravens. You thought you finally wriggled some control back from this Wheelix. But Trixtank and Deathwalker had something else in mind, and Johnny will survive. Johnny picks up another Katana. So the only 2 he's missing are Serrated Edge and Hasten Katana. We'll be interested to see.
I feel it has to be serrated, right? I can't imagine Hasten. You have super.
Yeah, but like we've gone a little crazy anyway, so I think it should be serrated, but I want it to be hastened because it just doesn't make much sense, and that's why I want it. Maybe it does make some sense, where you get a little attack speed.
Are you gonna try to talk yourself into it?
Yeah, while Angry dies, I'm gonna try to talk myself into it, but I haven't made much progress here. Snipes down from Echrome, and a pluck forces the beads from Vaporish Coast.
That's why there hasn't been a lot of action over here.
Yeah, because
it's so easy to get out.
A roll and a snipe on one side, and beads and a Bifrost and an ultimate on the other. And both hunters will remain at 000.
Honestly, I think that this is very prominent, though, for Mambo, right? I mean, not only is it the gold lead that you had highlighted earlier, this is the first time I think I felt like they've got a significant amount of control on the map that they can actually get a neutral objective on the left-hand side.
Watch
I mean,
out.
they haven't got a single Fury all set. That's the first Fury they've got this set. And so what was that, 36 minutes plus 17, do some math, and that gets you somewhere in the 50s. So almost an hour of gameplay where they just have not been able to be able to pick up something on the left-hand side. That's a big upswing for them. And I think that that's going to be even more gold in their pocket, but more so, more power for these next couple of fights. What is that? A Soul Reaver just now finished for Zeros, and so you're already hitting hard there. Silver Branch is done for E-Chrome. You're getting a little more tank items done for Trix Tank and soon enough Deathwalker. I think that they are in a very good spot. Is this that's an easy statement to make? Like,
I'm not in a bad spot.
They're
when I'm
comfortable.
6K ahead, right? I'm feeling just fine.
You've been winning most of the fights. You got a lot of the kills.
Yep.
It feels pretty good.
And it does feel good for us. When Johnny got that first blood, we said, you know what? Johnny's now in a spot where this game can start to flow through the Awilix. And that's exactly what's happened. Everywhere that Johnny has gone has turned to gold, and you get a pretty good idea of the way the game has gone. When Johnny has 100% kill participation, so does Deathwalker, who deserves some credit. And also so does Trix Tank. And then you realize all 4 of those kills are on the right side of the map. Again, the stats are just everywhere right-leaning. This one no exception, though. Deathwalker simply lives through the initiation. Johnny is here, and Kana is not. Rapio, you thought you were jumping away, but Johnny had something else in mind. A double kill for Johnny and a rampage at 18 minutes.
Yeah, I think I did a lot of focusing, like almost hyper-focusing on just the knockups that Hex Mambo have.
I didn't even consider
I didn't
that, to be
even
honest.
think about the leap that Angry and Rapio have that are going to just ruin them if they try to get away in moments where Johnny has the ult. So that was maybe one of the easiest kills as an Awilish to pick up. You get 2. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised that they stopped at just the Pyromancer. I think you could have pulled an early FG. Granted, it's tanky, and it probably would have taken a good chunk of your health bar with it. Yeah, if E-Chrome had rotated, that might have been an easy early FG for him to really push this further. But as it is, I mean, you are in maybe the most comfortable lead I've seen in the SEC in the last couple of weeks. I mean, you are
Right.
in a good spot to just coast forward.
Speaking of coast,
And forward.
and out goes coast. Into the Bifrost again, Beads and Aegis, neither of those used. Do you think we're just moments away, minutes away maybe, from Hex Mambo starting to sniff around this Fire Giant? But remember, with the way that the pace that this game has gone, we're 20 minutes in, Gore, and not a single tower has gone down in this game for either team. Everyone's got all 6 towers on the map. So whichever team, heavily Hex Mambo leaning, grabs the first Fire Giant, is also going to have just massive gold spooling right after that. You're going to be able to knock down all of these tier 1s, likely some tier 2s. And so where is this massive lead already for Hex Mambo? That's all through now 1 tower going down on the Highland Ravens side of the map. It's an awkward spot for the Ravens to be in. I'm not sure if the threat of towers going down is enough for you to take a Fire Giant fight, but you got to imagine, Gore, if you lose that Fire Giant, the line of this game ending is pretty clear. You're going to get massive gold in the pocket of Hex Mambo, and I don't know if that means the Ravens have to defend it.
Honestly, it's the same spot that the Mambo were in last game, right? I mean, they needed that FG early on so they could get the towers, to get the gold, to even out the game state, to make it so that when it did get reversed, even though the Ravens had an EFG, you were at an even, gold count. You had the same items. Everything was a little more balanced. Now, if you're the Ravens, if you lose a Fire Giant here, not only is it a bunch of towers that are going to disappear map state that then gets ruined for you, but gold is going to get so out of hand. I mean, already you've got people who are ahead, an item ahead, if not more, on the side of Hex Mambo. And so you get a Fire Giant here, you get some of that gold. That's free crit for E-Chrome.
Goodbye to Calvin. Love Zeros. And now Calvin takes a tumble for the first time this game. And so finally some deaths diversifying across the Highland Ravens roster. It's been 3 for Kana, 3 for Rapio. Angry and Calvin have both taken 1 as of late. Could get worse here, as Johnny's one being knocked up, just waiting for Kana to go down. And there it is. Johnny gets his 6th of the game, and it has just been brutal for this King Arthur. A 2-level lead over for Deathwalker. And I do wonder, Gore, nice beats by Rapio, by the way. Got to be a kill here, and it is. Johnny with the double. Now actually might be time to double back for that FG. But again, E-Chrome vibing on the left side of the map. You're going to have to do it without your ADC.
We need a Hot in Here remix where it's just the kills keep coming, instead of the bass at the beginning of the song. Because I think that's just how it's going for Mambo, right? Like, it's just kill after kill after kill. That joke fell flat, and I'm okay with it. 7-0, though, for an Awilish. It feels exemplary, right? I mean, you're doing everything you want. You're pulling in Calvin, and to the point where I don't even think you care about tankiness now.
Yeah, I don't think you do either. Calvin back from base, back to
Somebody
the
kill the
grave.
FG.
Yeah, at some point. Ha! Yo, it's a Ganesh kill! Ganesh got one. Calvin gets it. I have no idea what happened there. Admittedly, that's a head scratcher. But what I love
Why did they?
is the fact that Calvin gets a kill. I don't know why you
What
would
did
hold that.
they-
Maybe who was close by? Was Angry close? Yeah, don't know, Gore.
I could watch that 5 times over, and maybe I'd figure it out.
All I know is I'm
could
happy that
not tell
Ganesh
you
got a kill.
Why they did that?
Ganesh
that
has
way.
the most kills
They
on his
had
team.
so many people with a higher health bar. They had so many people who could just kill the damn thing.
Gore, again, I think you're missing the point. Like Ganesh has the most
Ganesh
kills.
is tied
on
for
Highland
most
Ravens.
kills on Highland Ravens,
We don't worry about tie. Like, you know, the headline's the same.
which is absolutely impossible to do most of the time. And in competitive gameplay, Ganesh getting a kill is
Maybe-
remarkable.
maybe
Katie got a
is-
triple kill on Ganesh once.
I believe it.
And that makes me cry. That like as someone who understands how Smite works, that hurts my soul.
Well, Calvin did just drop Dharmic Pillars on Oni Fury. Doesn't get the steal. Will die for the 3rd time this game. This one getting out of control. I thought, were Dharmic Pillars still down when that Fire Giant was low? I'm not sure.
That might have been
The
it.
only thing I can think of is what Doug was highlighting for us, is that Hex Mambo hesitated for a second because the Dharmic Pillars were still down.
I'm wondering if that's what Trick sank, like with the Fire Giant, like it knocked him up and then he walked through Dharmic Pillars and that
Yeah,
voided
maybe.
him.
Well,
Voided him in cold blood.
Gore, you'd be a good old-timey radio announcer. I think we've established this before. Look, we're 24 minutes into this game. Hex Mambo are 10,000 gold ahead, and they still got 3 towers to knock down, so they will legitimately be over 10,000 gold ahead. Hard to see a way for the Ravens to get back into this one, though. Vaporish Coast is almost full build, and he's on Heimdall, but the choice of fight at the tier 2 tower, admittedly. What is happening? We have devolved. Has he gotten damage? Okay, he did get damage on Nakata now. So this will be the 8th kill of the game as the Titan grabs an assist for Johnny.
Yeah,
There
I'm
is
going to go
always
ahead and
something
say
going
that's
on in this
nothing
game.
short of just inting.
There's always something going on in this game right now. So we got who died to the Ganesh? Trix Tank?
Trick sank, yeah.
Trix Tank dives to a Ganesh. Wow, Hex Mambo hold the objective. Now Kana is miraculously in Hex Mambo's fountain and
Yeah,
dying.
I can't think of any good reason that he was over there.
I don't know. We're all over the place. I think the result ends up largely being the same.
Yeah, you
What could
probably
be-
were going to die. It's just your team could be fighting a 5-on-5 right now.
Right.
Like,
Maybe a 4-on-5 is somehow more advantageous because it makes Hex Mambo think that they've got it in the bag and they kind of rest on their laurels a bit instead of fully focusing on a 5v5. I don't know. I'm trying to find something for Highland Ravens. I'm not selling myself on that theory. Left side Phoenix gone.
oh, I see. And so he could respawn just in time for them to get the Phoenix, and then they won't push the Titan.
Right.
Because he's back.
Right, exactly.
Nailed it.
Well, Highland Ravens need to come back here, Gore. And I'm not sure how they do so. There's 12,000
Well, I can tell you,
gold
it's
on.
not by going under the Titan.
It is.
That's play number 1.
It is letting Coast farm for his Deathbringer
Yep. That's step number 1.
and hoping he multi-kills you.
I'm surprised Ikra, maybe it's Golden Hand that is it should be riding high for him, right? Because like at this point, yeah, I was gonna say like you do not have that 6th slot built yet, but they've been sitting on it for a while, like the entire FG buff. And normally that's where you get to see that huge swing of power. Also, it does look like it's gonna be another Warlock staff for Zeros here as a last item. And I talked to Miff about it a little bit last week, because like we were talking about it, and like stacking wise, it feels great when you evolve it. But even not stacked, like it's just a good stat stick at the very base. So you know it doesn't feel too bad this late on. Plus, Baba Yaga getting the free stacks. It's not like you're like concerned with farming wave after wave after wave. But it definitely is going to be a much slower kick than maybe what you're used to seeing when you pick up that item earlier on.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I wonder if he even gets. Do you think he gets it fully stacked by the end of this game?
Because there's another FG. Well, he doesn't even have it bought yet. If he had it bought right now, I'd say yes without a doubt. I don't even know if we see it fully finished by the end of this game. With the way these team fights have been going, I think if you win this one, get the FG or not, you probably just run it down right or mid and end the game.
No! Calvin gets jumped on, drops the Dharmic Pillars as a plug through from Trix Tank, but it's a good Fear No Evil from Rapio to slow down the initiation. Snipes through from E-Chrome, buys some damage, but Zeros has scaled up just fine, and there's way too much of it. Actually not a horrible fight for the Highland Ravens, but none of the kills are dropping. Kana left alone with 2, and now left alone with 1, but E-Chrome on a killing spree will leave just the carries alive for the Highland Ravens. But Hex Mambo won't go for the end. They'll double back for the FG.
Gonna call him out on it. Johnny stays alive there if E-Chrome hits a couple of those autos. A couple go wide, and admittedly, I think it's Kana playing the map well, not necessarily just E-Chrome missing. But if some of those connect, I think Johnny lives, and maybe we see a much more convincing FG. Granted, it's still a 4-man fire giant. You get it onto the most important person if you're still trying to knock down like Phoenix's towers, which is going to be E-Chrome here. But you give a big shutdown bounty over, and that's going to be a good chunk of change. What I'm thinking, 8-0, as long as it's been, that should have caused like a pretty significant dent in the grass. Not enough that it's like...
That is huge.
Man. Well, hey, granted, considering how far ahead they are, that's like 800 gold or something.
Look under the right above the 6 now. Or the second 6. You see that little uptick?
Yeah.
I think that's
it.
I think that's the
that little nubbin on the graph is Johnny's death.
Which actually, given how far behind they are, is like
it's a decent chunk
of gold. It's like a few hundred gold.
Yeah, but
they're 18,000 behind, so it doesn't look like anything. Yeah, actually, you know what? We can clown the Ravens. We're not clowning the Ravens. That's the wrong word for it. We can make light of the way that this game has gone because Hex Mambo are so far in control. This actually might just be the play the Ravens have to go for. You group up somewhere that Hex Mambo won't expect it, get a kill, and see if you can win a 4v5. E-Chrome would be a fantastic prize, but a pull off the stage as Johnny gets Rapio out of the fray, and E-Chrome is indeed the pick. And suddenly Highland Ravens have made a play.
I mean, they're still pushing. That's the thing. They recognized it. They're like, cool, you might kill somebody. Who cares? We're going to get something out of this. Johnny, though, this might not work out well.
I don't know. Johnny with the auto-attack-centric build, not feeling the best up against Kana. Right side Phoenix lives. And with no E-Chrome for 35 seconds score, the Highland Ravens have bought themselves some time. Vaporish Coast has fully gotten that Deathbringer. Still very much in favor of Hex Mambo. But I will say a slightly higher percentage for Highland Ravens now after a play like that.
Yeah, you know, it goes from like, well, yeah, it bumps them up by maybe 5%, right? You feel better. Fire Giant at this point on 3 members feels like it's just going to waste away, is the way I would describe it. Luckily, left side Phoenix, while you're distracting, right, they go for a deep play. They get the kill. They save the Phoenix on right-hand side, but it lets minions on the left-hand side get the Phoenix one more time. So Mambo haven't lost out on map state as much, but by the time the next FG spawns, that Phoenix should be back and pretty healthy, and you are going to have to look for another fight. I feel like this is just going to be another 2 minutes, despite the power play existing for another minute. I don't think a lot's going to happen out of here unless somebody from the Ravens or from the Mambo just gets caught out once again like we just saw.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know, because this is an interesting...
And now I'll say that we will see this Warlock staff finish stacked by the time the end of the game comes around because he's actually bought it.
Yeah, I do wonder... Okay, yeah, I was wondering if Hex Mambo look for a fight here because you're giving the Ravens time to scale back into this game. Dharmic Pillars slows down the initiation. Calvin throws up the silence. Rapio has Fear No Evil. Will he get a chance to use it? No, he won't. Johnny snags that one. Comes back now with 9 kills in this game for Hex Mambo. But I don't know how convinced Hex Mambo are. They're going to send Johnny towards mid, rotate him back to right. It's like a full 5-man push on the right side Phoenix.
They should be able to get this again. It's going to be a little slower since E-Chrome doesn't have the FG buff. Did you have damage? No, they're going to get repelled back.
You shouldn't. Let's Trick Tank walk forward, threaten a pluck. Instead, Kana walks back towards E-Chrome, gets knocked up and pulled back. Then another pluck through. Kana cannot play the game, and E-Chrome reminds him why. Hex Mambo get another pick. Now it's 20 seconds on Rapio, a full minute on Kana. Calvin plus carries equals the only defensive chance the Ravens have got.
That's a big stagger, though, right? Not having Kana for so long means it should be advantageous position around an EFG if they go for it. But if you get another kill, maybe even 2 here, then it should just be game for Mambo. Oh, they're backing away.
I appreciate you setting the stage, Gore, but Hex Mambo
I
has
wanted him to
something
go
else in
in.
mind. As 1 minute left on the Fire Giant respawn. So Kana will be back. Rapio is back. I was thinking, look, Vaporsh Coast doesn't have beads for a minute and a half. Doesn't have ultimate either. A pluck lands on the coast and you're ending that game. But Hex Mambo want to take a deep breath, make sure that nothing funky happens. Though the builds have started to catch back up. We've been full build for a little while for Hex Mambo. Angry has fully stacked up. Rapio just a tier, I guess 1 tier of an item behind full build. Of course, the relics still make a difference at this point. As time goes on, outside of map state, gold starting to trickle back for the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, I mean,
He did it.
At a certain point, you had highlighted this last game.
Shouldn't have done it, but he did it.
It is, you can be 20,000 plus behind, but you're going to hit a point where you've got the same amount of items, right? Like,
I mean, Coast. It's got to be Coast, right? Coast and Angry.
Pretty much. I mean, I think that if Coast... Last game, Coast around a right side Phoenix gets a triple kill and completely repels an FG team with Mambo. This is the same position, but it was the one that Echrome was in, right?
Let's
So
see
you
what
just gotta find the
Deathwalker
fight.
can get done. Lord of the Afterlife into the back line. Actually finds some good value. Fear no evil onto zeros. Barapio is evaporated by Johnny. Kana will suffer a similar fate as Echrome grabs another. And now it is miracle time for Highland Ravens. Vaporsh Coast will Bifrost away. Has beads coming back shortly. Double kill for Echrome. Johnny looking for a double of his own. Aegis will delay the life of Angry. And Zeros adds 1 in this fight for himself. Coast against 5. I'm not taking those odds.
I don't know. Ghost has done some nuts things in it. He's going to try
Still
to
not taking
autos.
those odds.
I don't know. A lot of crits. A lot of
They'll get it
capability,
done.
yeah, with fire minions. Maybe a kill here.
Wow, Vaporsh
Could do
Coast
something.
is going to end this game 0-0-1. 6-1 and 4 for Echrome. Vaporsh Coast adds an assist and nothing else here in this game. Brutal game for the front line and the initiation of the Highland Ravens. Look at those KDAs, 1-8, 1-7, 1-5 for Kana, Rapio, and Calvin respectively. The space creation, the opening of opportunities just wasn't quite there for the carries. The front lines just got melted down. Took a little bit longer, took maybe 1 more Fire Giant than Hex Mambo would hope for, but still a very clean game from start to finish.
I mean, being able to move forward, like you said, I mean, they start getting kills almost immediately. Johnny does a masterclass, I think, on this Wheelish. It showcases the power that they had. What was it, about 5 minutes in, there was the first blood, and they just kept the kills rolling in from that point forward, finding a lot of easy picks. Sobek made it maybe even easier for them. One of the reasons that it was, I think, the most banned god against this team in Phase 1, and maybe not going to be surprised to see if it maybe continues on that kind of trajectory in Phase 2, because that's what you get. Really good plucks into really good knockups, into really good pulls from a synergistic Wheelish on the other side, or on the same side, and then the damage was there to the point where I don't think it was really that late on in the game until other people outside of Johnny were the ones getting credit for the kills.
Well, this is where things started. Johnny makes his way to solo. We talked about, all right, could be a springboard point for this Wheelix. Then it was a 15 KDA for Johnny. That's pretty nuts. 26,000 damage in a 30 or so minute game. It just feels like this style of pick, because think back to this Hex Mambo team when they were at the time belt slap. These were the styles of picks that Johnny got to play. Not even so much the Wheelix, just carry style picks. The Kalis, the Bakusuras, Mercuries. And Johnny gets a look at it here in this game, builds a bit more unique, and is able to, I won't say fully carry. I mean, Hex Mambo really stepped up around him, but was damage facilitator, and I think Hex Mambo look a lot better for it. The scary team to be going up against now. Hex Mambo not without their struggles last phase, Gore, when we kind of first saw this team come together. I think started to figure it out a bit.
Yeah, I think what we really got to see there was like Johnny kicking things off, but like you said, good frontline, Deathwalker, Trixtank, leading along with it, 13 assists and 11 assists for each of them, right? And we really got to see a diversification. Like Johnny, Zeros, and Echrome were all doing enough damage that it had to be maybe too much for them to handle, right? Like if you wanted to kill Johnny, and then cool, but Xeris is going to be there. He put up 21k, right? The Ikram was still going to be there. So late game, they were focusing a lot, and they were able to get a lot of damage out there onto some of the carries. But because they each individually were doing so much, if you didn't kill one, the other two could just overwhelm you.
Yeah, look, and this Highland Ravens team, they'll be okay, right? I mean, this is a very talented roster who's going to be able to move forward successfully, I think, throughout the rest of this phase in the EU-SEC. Hex Mambo might just be the team to beat. Deathwalker, the man to beat over in the solo lane, and our very own Billy sat down with Deathwalker post-game to hear his thoughts about how this match went.
Hey, it's me, basically, Billy, SEC interviewer from NA to EU, the best questions asked to your favorite pros. Today, I'm joined by Deathwalker, solo laner for the Hex Mambo. How are you doing today?
Hello. Well, I mean, I'm doing pretty good. I think I just kind of freshly got off of scrims. It was a okay scrim session as well.
That's nice. That's nice.
I think it ended a little poorly according to someone's, but it's fine.
That's how all scrims have to end. They have to end poorly. But we're not here to talk about scrims. We're here to talk about your most recent win over the Highland Ravens here in the SEC. It was a pretty great showing, a clean 2-0 from you guys. What I would like to know is, the last time we really saw you guys, the Hex Mambo, that is, it was at Masters event. It was a very slower paced game than what we were seeing. We were seeing a lot of Geb solo from you specifically. That was one of the picks that we saw, kind of slower paced, extend the match, but the meta has kind of changed recently, an awakening, or rather something came to. We saw a lot of Osiris from you today specifically, and I kind of want to know how you guys have been adjusting to the meta.
Well, I think for solo lane got hit the hardest for sure with that big patch 9.5 when it came in. The Geb origin, well, in general for that LAN, I had to play something that was a little bit like more passive, or just, you know, didn't really do anything, because it's kind of hard to play a lot of the goals that I would want to play on ping. So, you know, I just went with like Hades or Geb or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, when I'm actually playing on normal ping, it's easier to perform well on something like Osiris, for example, right? Like something that I can actually force plays and like make them, you know, to try and play defensive and force mistakes on their end. Yeah, heck, I mean, I guess we didn't really change our competitive style too much so far. We kind of just believe it to be very strong, and we're showing it, and we're not really hiding anything specifically as far as like general strategy goes. I think right now, just, you know, maybe some god pool depths and stuff like that, like some spice you can see here and there. But I think if we play solid, we're a pretty strong team, so we're not too scared.
Yeah, and it really does show. And going back to what you were kind of talking about for a second there, it's the playstyle really hasn't changed. You said when you were getting into the normal ping games back on those EU servers, and outside of gods themselves, you are, as the Hex Mambo, one of the only teams with either little to no roster changes. The Highland Ravens, which you just faced, are picking up, adapting for the next week. And I kind of want to know what's the mental like, not only on your side, preparing the same players over and over, but also preparing for new teams with new rosters, new additions, and stuff like that.
Well, I think it's quite a bit easier to prepare because, granted, teams have their honeymoon phase, of course. You know, some players generally just are more motivated when they make roster changes and stuff like that. But I just don't think with such instabilities in rosters, with literally every other roster except for ours, is ever gonna work. On top of us, we were already first when teams kind of stuck together, and now they switched, and I think it will be harder for them to sort of adjust on top of all the meta changes on new team environments and stuff like that. Whereas we're just kind of steadily improving, and we were already number one, right? So I would say they probably made it easier for us. So it's maybe a little bit less pressure on us in this split.
I have one final question for you, and you said yourself you are a pretty storied player, a long history. I want to know, up to today, who is the funnest, or at least the solo laner you have the most fun going against?
Up to today. Oh wait, do I have to say SEC or SPL? I guess I can do both.
It can
right?
be. It can be whatever.
For SPL,
Yeah,
it's
go for it.
probably variety. Yeah, I think it's variety for SPL, and for SEC so far, it was Terrorim, but he stopped playing, so I'm a bit sad about that. But these other solo laners will pick it up. I'm sure of it.
Regardless, that's all the time that we have here today. We'll pass it back to the desk as we get back into some Smite action.
Thanks, basically, and Deathwalker for the post-game interview. And big words there from Deathwalker. So not only favoring themselves as the #1 seed here in EU, for good reason, they're playing like it, but also missing playing against Variety a bit. If Hex Mambo continue this run of form, make a run at next Masters, he could be right back in that solo lane glare up against Variety.
Yeah.
And this Hex Mambo team, they got a real good shot to finish this phase as the #1 seed out of EU, because they have just taken down a team who, up to this point, had already won their first matchup. So technical tie for first. We've already gotten 2 EU matchups underway here today. Remember, our third and final EU matchup of the week will take place tomorrow prior to the SPL waiting room at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you tune in for Gilded Gladiators versus the Aru Scorpions at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's an important matchup for separating these two teams as far as the lower and sort of middle portion of these predicted standings will break down. Aru Scorpions able to win their first matchup, Gilded Gladiators not. Gore, we could be a bit tied up there in the middle if the Gilded Gladiators are able to find a win.
And if I remember, I mean, like, a lot of Europe last phase was very close like that, right? Like, it was like you had everybody right next to each other, within a win of each other. And so I really do expect to see some power from these teams. I'm more keeping my eyes, I think, on the Scorpions. If I remember correctly, they were towards the bottom 2 during that last phase, and I know like there's been a ton of roster changes over in Europe going from phase 1 to phase 2, but where these teams end up and the fact that they've already got 1 win under the belt, I think is a fantastic start for them. So it'll be them, plus seeing the Gilded Gladiators so low kind of broke my brain. So I think that's going to be a very interesting matchup to see how it shakes up standings.
I need to see, and I'm expecting and hoping for, I need growth from the Gilded Gladiators this phase of the SEC. That's that just F6 squad, Listemics, Mass Kill, Sotos, Toddy, have Worst Turtle playing support for them now. A team that's been together for a long time. They found mixed success with one another. This is the phase I want to see them start to climb up those standings. That's it for the EU portion of our day. However, don't go anywhere. We got 2 North American sets coming up next.